So the plan is pretty simple. If we get a good release on the headline number, we're expecting 1. If we get 1.2, we're going to be looking to buy, and we will wait for a retracement. Now, the rule for retracement trades is to wait for a release, and after the release, we wait for a retracement. But of course, there's one thing we need to watch out for, and that is to make sure that there's momentum. So after the release, we want to see the market spiking in the direction of the release. However, if we get a worse than expected number, let's say around 0.7%, or on the headline number, or even 0.6% on the trend main number, both of them should be going in the same direction. I wouldn't expect to see any kind of conflict. Then I think whoever bought Australian dollar prior to the release are going to be selling it off. So we could see 100, 150 pips of drop pretty soon, in my opinion. And the drop could continue, and we could see the sentiment changing as the economy in Australia is not really hitting up that fast. So that's pretty much what I'm looking for right now, and based on the release, we'll decide what to do. Should be getting this number any moment now, so stand by, everyone. Seems like we got a worse number. We're seeing the market reacting immediately to it. The market is selling sharply.
0.6, quarter below estimate.
0.6.
0.6. 0.0. Year over year. 3.1 also below. 3.4%. Australian dollar moving below 90 cent handle. 89.66. Weakness in Australian dollar.
Okay. After a jumped up retracement, we're gonna be jumping on a sell. So if the market goes back to the 70s, we're selling.
0.5%.
Okay.
Dollar extending its decline here, now below 89.60, falling about 50 pips after the worse than expected Q2 CPI data from Australia.
Let's see if we get a 70 retracement, minimum 70 retracement. If we get it, if we can get 80, that's even better. But I think if we can get 70, that'll be good enough. 70, 75. I think the market is likely to start selling off the Aussie dollar, given the fact that there is a much worse than expected inflation number. We got 0.6, and the market is expecting 1.0. So this is definitely a sell trade. We just have to get as close as to the pre-release, which is around the 90 cents. So right now we're like the 60, 65. So if we can get 70, that would be good. We'll try to do 35 pips of stop loss, and we can probably shoot for 50 pips of profit on this one, at least minimum. If you guys want to jump in right now, it's really up to you guys. I would prefer for a retracement, but I don't know if we're going to get it, to be really honest with you. So I'm going to send the trade at 70, and we will see if we get some kind of a retracement on this one. As I said, if you guys want to wait for that 75, we might get it. Remember, it's only 4 minutes after release. Market drop slow and steady manner. It could take hours, but if you hold on to it as the market sentiment starts to turn a little bit, I think the Australian dollar is going to be starting to turn. It's likely going to be the return of a possible downtrend. Now remember, the take profit level should be minimum at 86.32. And that will give you close to about 320 pip, even if you enter from now. I think with today's market start to drop, and Monday, that's when we're going to start seeing acceleration of drop, because the expectation for the RBA's interest rate decision is going to start changing the market sentiment towards the Australian dollar, because they don't think Aussie is going to hike interest rate. So we actually will get in on a possible sentiment trade on Monday, with expectations of a weaker Canadian dollar, because RBA is not likely to hike interest rate. So given the fact that we're going to have like maybe even 4 days before the interest rate, I believe we could see the market drop down to the 86.32 level. So I'm going to go ahead and take a sell trade here. I think we saw a little bit of retracement to the 50-ish. I'm going to go ahead and sell it right here, around 53. So took a sell trade there. Now what we do is we wait, and I think the market will not disappoint us. Interest rate is a weapon for central banks to fight against inflation. Now, what is CPI? CPI is inflation. It's the measurement of inflation. So now all the economists in the world believe that Australia is going to have 1% of inflation for the last quarter. So remember, every quarter you add it up. So they think that, oh, this quarter they're going to have 1%. So for the year-on-year number, we're getting like a 3.1%, which is just a little bit above the normal. All central banks, they want between 2 to 3% of inflation. They don't want more than that. So just on the borderline of 3% is acceptable, not yet to a point for them to hike interest rate. So now we just talked about the Australian inflation is expected at 1%. We got 0.6%, and that's pretty low according to Australia's standard. So now gives central bank a pause from hiking interest rate. Now I also talk about in my analysis that if interest rate is up and they keep on hiking interest rate, you know that the entire Australian economy is built up basically on commodity, on mining. So, and that's highly dependent to the demand from China, because they also don't want their economy to burn out too fast. So they want to start slow it down. So if Chinese government start to actively intervene in that, the entire house of cards in Australia is going to collapse. So they don't want to hike interest rate, because when you hike interest rate or when you cut interest rate, it takes 3 to 6 months for the entire industry to feel it. So they want to keep it as low, but also at the same time to be able basically to control the economy. Now, if RBA is not expecting to hike interest rate, there's no point for traders to be holding on to the Australian dollar, especially it's a risk currency. So everyone that bought the Australian dollar, there definitely is going to be a sort of expectation for the Aussie to rise, because they're expecting RBA to hike interest rate next week. So that's why we're seeing a lot of demand for it in the last few days. Now with this news, meaning that everyone that decided that it is a good buy are going to get out of it, and it will become a snowball effect. That one, you started with 3 traders and then 5 traders, and then everybody else and their cousins are going to get out on this long trade because of the fact that they expect they can change, and they eventually become a sentiment problem as the whole world starts to sell the Aussie dollar. So I hope this one gives you a little picture, so you know that this news has a profound impact on the Australian dollar. Hopefully that will give you confidence to stay in this trade and see it all the way down to the 86 something, because I believe it could happen. And next week, we got an entire week for the Australian dollar to drop. And all we need is 1 or 2 days of bad news from somewhere, and that's going to change the sentiment at 8 to this drop, and we will probably see this thing go down at least 200 pips. So this is one of those trades that, yes, news trading can give you a chance to pick out 20, 30, 40 pips, which is great. But then fundamental trading based on fundamental analysis will give you much more than that. Now, as usual, I want you guys to monitor this trade on your own. Those of you that follow me enter at 53. You're looking at 20 pips of profit. It's not a bad trade if you take your profit now for 20 pips, or you can shoot for 100 pips, or you can shoot for 200 pips, or you can shoot for even more. But the idea is, once you know the direction where the market is going, and you know basically what I told you, that this thing is likely to be on the same trend until next week, you're going to be amazed that the market is going to change trend again after Tuesday. It's almost like having a crystal ball, being able to predict where the market is. And sometimes when I look technical trader, just too technical, like things like this, how would you be able to have the confidence of staying in a trade, if you don't understand the fundamental factors behind it? Okay, just remember what I said about the Aussie. It could have a very long-term effect on this one. All right, bye-bye.